This one surfaced inside a massive BuzzFeed Reddit thread where people were asked to describe the signs that someone in their life was a psychopath, and out of hundreds and hundreds of responses, this one kept being referenced in the replies. People couldn't read past it without stopping. A Reddit user described their neighbor from childhood, a man who lived nearby and who, when the poster was somewhere between 8 and 10 years old, decided to share one of his hobbies. He buried animals alive. Not quickly, not carelessly, methodically, with a system. He would catch small animals and put them inside jars. The lid would have a small hole drilled into it with a thin rubber hose fitted through the hole, just enough airflow to keep them alive. He would bury the jar underground, not too deep, he explained to this child, because the point was to be able to hear them moving around inside as they tried to escape. Sometimes he sealed the jar tight, no air. He'd time how long it took. Sometimes he gave them a little food and water through the tube to keep them alive longer. And occasionally, when he felt like it, he would pour water down the air tube to drown them while they were still trapped underground, still conscious, still trying to get out. He described all of this to a child between 8 and 10 years old, casually, like he was describing a hobby he was proud of, like it was interesting information he thought they'd appreciate knowing. The person who posted this said they had never, in all the years since, been able to fully shake what it felt like to be standing there at that age, listening to an adult explain that in such a matter-of-fact tone. What they also said, the part that lodged itself in readers' heads and wouldn't leave, is that the worst part wasn't just what he did, it was that he had clearly been doing it long enough that he had preferences, that he had developed techniques, that he knew, from experience, exactly how deep to bury them so that the sound carried properly. This is the second layer of the Scott Cleeschulte story, and it deserves its own chapter because of one specific question that nobody has been able to cleanly answer. If that Reddit post was real, if that throwaway account was telling the truth about what happened on that dirt cliff in 1988, then there were multiple children present. Not one, multiple. The user wrote, "we." He wrote that the group ran, that as far as I know, no one has spoken a word of this to anyone. Which means, if this is true, there are other people out there, adults right now, somewhere in Missouri or wherever they ended up, who were 8, 9, 10 years old on the day Scott Cleeschulte fell, who ran home, who grew up, who went to school and got jobs and maybe had families, and who have been carrying the image of a 9-year-old boy lying at the bottom of a cliff with blood coming out of his mouth for 38 years, and said nothing. Not to their parents, not in therapy, not to police, not to Scott's family who are still alive, still in that house, still without an answer. The person who posted it clearly couldn't hold it anymore. That's why they posted it, on a throwaway account, in a thread full of other confessions where it might get buried. They needed to say it somewhere, even anonymously, even to strangers. And then they deleted the account and disappeared again. Scott's mother has said publicly that she still hopes for answers. She doesn't know about that Reddit post, or if she does, it has never been confirmed. The case file is still open. Somewhere, the people who were on that cliff are still alive. This one came from the same thought catalog archive of the most disturbing Reddit posts ever uploaded, and it has almost no resolution, which is what makes it so hard to let go of. A woman posted that she had received an anonymous email. Inside the email was a video file. She opened it. The video showed her in what appeared to be her own home, in what appeared to be a private moment, answering questions. Questions that she had no memory of being asked. Questions that she appeared to be responding to calmly, naturally, as though the conversation was completely normal. The footage had a timestamp. It had been recorded 3 years before she received it. She had no memory of the conversation, no memory of the camera, no memory of any of it. She posted the video to Reddit asking if anyone could help her understand what she was looking at. Within hours, she had tens of thousands of people watching. The comments were trying to work out if it was deepfake technology, which was still relatively new at the time, whether it was from a hidden camera, whether someone had been in her home, whether this had been happening more than once. Then she deleted her account, took the video down, and was never heard from again. Nobody knows what happened next. Nobody knows who sent it. Nobody knows what was on the rest of that recording. Nobody knows how long it had been going on before that one clip was pulled and sent to her. The person who saw it and shared it on Reddit said what has stayed with them ever since is a very simple question. Why 3 years later? Why did whoever filmed it decide to send it to her 3 years after the fact? What changed? What were they trying to tell her, or warn her about, or do to her? There is no answer. She's gone, the video's gone, the account is gone. Whatever that was, it happened, and only 2 people know what it actually was. A Reddit user described their mother being at some kind of social gathering, standing around talking to people, normal party, normal conversation. Their mother got to talking to a woman there, perfectly pleasant, charming by all accounts, the kind of person you'd enjoy chatting with at an event. The poster's mother stepped away for a moment. When she came back, something had clearly shifted. The other woman was gone, and the poster's mother had a look on her face that wasn't easy to read. Later, she told her child what had happened in those few minutes. The woman, this perfectly pleasant, socially comfortable, charming stranger, had waited until they were briefly alone and then casually mentioned that she made regular trips into lower-income neighborhoods, and while she was there, she would find people's pets, steal them, take them home, and then beat them to death with a hammer or a shovel. She said this with no distress in her voice, no guilt, no attempt to explain or justify, just stated it as a fact about herself the way you might mention a weekend habit. The poster's mother said that what haunted her most, more than the information itself, was the complete absence of shame. This woman had told a stranger at a social gathering about systematically taking people's beloved animals and ending their lives with a hammer or a shovel, and looked entirely comfortable doing it, relaxed, like she expected this to land as interesting conversation. The poster said their mother came home from that gathering a different kind of shaken than they had ever seen her before. A man in Hamilton, Ontario, posted on Reddit describing what he was thinking in the hours after he had allegedly taken the life of his girlfriend. He was still in the area, he hadn't turned himself in, and he chose, in that window, to open Reddit and type out a first-person account of his thoughts, his justifications, and his state of mind in real time while being wanted for murder. What people who read it described was the texture of it, not graphic, not boastful, something arguably worse. Ordinary sounding. The writing of a person who was trying to make sense of something to himself out loud and doing it in the only place he thought nobody would find him. By the time most people read it, he was already a wanted person. The post was removed, his account was deleted, but those who saw it before it came down described the experience of reading it as one of the most deeply unsettling things they had ever encountered on the platform. A man named Jason Worley posted on Reddit's relationships forum sometime in late 2016. Normal post, normal problem by Reddit standards. He'd found out his wife Brandy had been sleeping with their next-door neighbor. He confronted her, she didn't deny it, and then things got darker. When Jason told Brandy he was done and he was taking the kids, their 7-year-old son Tyler and their 3-year-old daughter Charlie, Brandy didn't beg. She didn't cry. She told him that if he tried to leave, she'd use a history of struggling with his mental health against him in court. She'd make sure he never saw those children again. And then she did something that floored him even further. She demanded that Jason apologize, not just to her, to the neighbor she'd been sleeping with, the man she'd cheated with. Jason had to sit in front of this man and say sorry. And he did it. He swallowed every ounce of his self-respect and did it. Because he thought it would keep the family together, because he thought it would protect his kids. Reddit responded to his post with the usual advice. Get a lawyer, document everything, protect yourself. Nobody, not a single person who read that post could have predicted what was coming. On the night of November 17, 2016, roughly 1 month after Jason posted on Reddit, Brandy Worley woke their 7-year-old son Tyler up in the night. She told him they were having a sleepover in his little sister's room. He got up, groggy, and went with her. In Charlie's bedroom, Brandy straddled her son and stabbed him, repeatedly, with a combat knife. At some point during this, 3-year-old Charlie woke up. She looked at her mother and asked what she was doing. Brandy told her nothing, and Charlie went back to sleep. When Tyler was gone, Brandy turned to Charlie. Then she stabbed herself in the neck. Survived, called 911. Jason was asleep in the basement the entire time. He woke up to police in his house. The 911 call was made public. In it, Brandy calmly tells the dispatcher, "I just stabbed myself and I killed my 2 children." The dispatcher repeats it back, barely able to process the words. Brandy confirms it, her voice flat and steady. The prosecutor at her trial described it with a line that nobody in that courtroom forgot. He said she was more skilled at ending the lives of her small, sleeping children than she was at ending her own. Jason found his Reddit post later. One of his last entries before that night said he couldn't stop thinking about something, that Brandy had suggested he sleep on the couch instead of the air mattress in the basement. And he wrote, "I just can't help but wonder that if I had slept on the couch like she suggested, then maybe I could have saved my children, or at the very least, died with them." This one is disturbing in a completely different way, not because of what happened in the end, but because of how casually it was written, like a man trying to manage his reputation while being hunted. In April 2017, 22-year-old Melinda Vasilyevich was found stabbed to death inside her apartment in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. Her boyfriend, a 24-year-old man named Agar Hassan, had disappeared. A Canada-wide arrest warrant was issued. His face was on the news. Police were actively looking for him. And then, while all of this was happening, a Reddit account posted a thread titled, "Wanted for Kitchener Murder, My Side." The post was written by someone claiming to be Agar Hassan, and it read less like a confession and more like a man trying to control a narrative. He described going to Melinda's apartment to reconcile after a time apart. He admitted that when he told her he'd been seeing other people while they were on a break, she became upset. He described the situation escalating. He did not describe in clear terms what he did next. But Melinda was dead, and he was the last person who had been with her. What made people's skin crawl wasn't just that he'd posted this publicly while being hunted, it was the tone. He wrote about the investigators as being thorough and fair. He wrote about Melinda, the woman he was wanted for killing, calling her his everything, a soon-to-be fiancée, someone he loved more than any person he had known. He ended the post with the words, "Rest in peace, my beautiful. I hope you forgive me in the afterlife." The account was suspended shortly after the post went live. The thread was removed, but not before it had been screenshotted, archived, and shared thousands of times. Hassan was eventually located and taken into custody. He was convicted of second-degree murder in the death of Melinda Vasilyevich. He is currently serving his sentence. But that thread, a wanted man mid-flight choosing to log on to Reddit and type out his version of events, remains one of the most surreal things the platform has ever hosted. 9-year-old Scott Cleschult vanished on June 8, 1988. It was the last day of school at Coverdale Elementary in St. Charles, Missouri. He was finishing first grade, had some learning difficulties, was a little behind other kids his age, but he was happy that day. School was out, summer was starting. He walked home, changed his clothes, and went out to play in the woods like he did almost every afternoon. A violent thunderstorm swept through St. Charles that evening. His family assumed he'd taken shelter at a friend's house and waited for the rain to pass. He never came home. Search teams combed the area for days. Bloodhounds tracked his scent 5 miles northeast before losing the trail completely. Police dredged streams, searched caves, crawled through every hollow and tunnel in the surrounding area. No body was ever recovered. No confirmed cause was ever established. For nearly 30 years, Scott's disappearance remained completely unsolved. His parents never moved from the house they were living in when he disappeared. They are still there, still waiting for an answer. Then, in 2016, on a Reddit Ask Reddit thread where the question was, "Has anyone on Reddit ever accidentally killed someone?" a throwaway account with a 20-day history posted something that stopped the entire thread cold. The user described being a child in the 1980s. He and his friends had a secret hideout, a carved-out space inside a dirt cliff near their neighborhood. They showed up to find a kid already there, a neighborhood kid they described as strange, someone they believed had a mental disability. He was sitting at the spot at the top of the cliff they called their guard chair. They yelled at him to leave. He refused, said, "Make me," and started throwing sticks and clumps of dirt down at them. The group ran around the side of the cliff to climb up after him. And then, and this is where the post gets blurry on purpose, or maybe because of genuine trauma, the user wrote that his memory of what followed is fractured. He remembers the kid fell. He still remembers the sound. When they got down to where the boy landed, he was in a very wrong position. Blood was coming from his mouth. The group ran, all of them, scattered to their separate homes. And as far as the user wrote, no one ever spoke of it to anyone. Not to parents, not to police, not to each other. Reddit immediately began tearing through the details. The description of a mentally challenged neighborhood boy, the dirt cliff hideout, the area, the storm, the year. The geography matched.
The location in the post, which included a picture of the general area, sat just over a mile from where Scott Cleesholt was last seen walking. The account was deleted within hours of the post going up. Reddit alerted local police. The St. Charles County Department looked into it, but they publicly maintain, and still maintain, that their primary theory is that Scott was abducted. A Florida inmate who was also a former Chicago cop came forward in 2013, claiming knowledge of what happened. The DA investigated, found nothing new. As of right now, Scott Cleesholt's case is still open. His body has never been found. The Reddit account is gone. The person who posted it has never been publicly identified. And Scott's parents are still in that house, still waiting.
8 confessions, all real, all posted publicly by real people who either couldn't hold it in any longer, wanted to control their own narrative, or needed, even anonymously, even to complete strangers, to finally say the thing out loud. Some of them got away with it, some of them didn't, and some of them, like whoever was on that cliff with Scott Cleesholt, are still out there.